Denver Football After Dark. I'm going to warn you, I'm actually seeing a little thing that says unstable connection, so if there are some technical difficulties here at the hotel, I apologize. Because there's the music. I don't know if you heard it. I didn't hear it. But there it is, that late night groove here. The night before joint practice. 'Twas the night before joint practice, and all through Santa Clara, California, the creatures that are stirring, probably not the Denver Broncos, because hopefully they're asleep, snug in their beds. I'll be snug in my bed too in not too long. This will probably be a little more abbreviated show than you're used to, simply because I have to get to bed myself. But it's Denver Football After Dark, and we're going to talk a little about where the Broncos stand heading into this joint practice with the San Francisco 49ers. You see three guys there: Bo Nix, Evan Engram, and Talanoa Hufanga. Hufanga, of course, coming back to the San Francisco Bay Area, returning to his old stomping grounds. The place he knows so well, the 49ers practice fields. Dre Greenlaw returning as well, although given that we haven't seen him yet return to practice in earnest since he pulled up during the one-on-one drill covering J.K. Dobbins, I don't expect we'll see much of him during the practice on Thursday, which in the Mountain Time Zone is today. Don't expect we'll see much of him out there. And that'll certainly make things, it'll make things interesting. It'll give a chance to really find out, I think, what Lavelle Bailey is made of. Of course, he's done pretty well with the opportunity that he's had at inside linebacker, and now you get a chance to really test him against a demanding run game and maybe even test him in coverage against George Kittle. I mean, this is still a practice. Yes, it's against another team, and certainly it's a measuring stick, but it's still a practice, and you're still using this to learn about players. So I would say for someone like Lavelle Bailey, this is a moment that is an opportunity for him, and also an opportunity for the Broncos to find out just how good they can feel about him providing depth at inside linebacker. So if you don't have Greenlaw, if you decide to hold back Alex Singleton from this practice, that's okay, because you get a chance to see what Lavelle Bailey has and a chance to find out, all right, can we trust him as our first man up in case something happens to Alex Singleton or Dre Greenlaw when it matters? And that's the other thing. I mean, we probably do all make too much of the competitive periods of practice because these are just practices. And I think we'll probably end up making too much of this practice in particular because it is still a practice. It is still part of the learning for these players and part of the Broncos learning about what they have. If you don't like what you have at a position, you have time to remedy that. If you don't like the depth that you have at inside linebacker, you have time to fix that. You have time to go get a veteran to feel better about that. You have time to examine your potential options as the cut down nears. If you look around the league and see that there's a team that's going to go heavy and may be putting someone of quality on the waiver wire, and you want to make a trade for that player before they hit the wire. These are all things you can do. You have these sorts of options that you can go through. But I always say the first thing you should do is find out about what you have internally. You've been doing that in practice, and now you're going to do that in a competitive situation against another team. This is going to be a key data point. So will Saturday's game. So Lavelle Bailey, I think, is one of the guys that probably has an awful lot on the line in this practice. He can gain an awful lot, and the Broncos coaches can gain an awful lot of knowledge. And if Bailey goes out and holds his own again against a team that will put a lot of stress on the inside linebackers, San Francisco's offense, given its strengths, given its style, the way the Kyle Shanahan offense looks, I mean, it's obviously a very familiar style of offense to longtime Bronco fans. We know what this looks like. And one of the tenets of this is that in the first second or so after the snap, when you watch the offensive linemen, the way that they move, the plays look the same. And so it puts a lot of stress on the inside linebackers in terms of trying to diagnose what's going to happen. And so sometimes you can get caught a little bit out of position. You've got to be fairly advanced in terms of reading things and fairly prepared to be able to handle this. So that's why for somebody like Lavelle Bailey, this is a really good test to have. And if he holds his own and he plays well, you probably will go to sleep at night on Thursday feeling pretty good about your depth there. So that's one of the advantages of this practice. And that's one of the reasons why you have these joint practices, because you want to see what your players look like against different schemes, not just different players, because you can, after a while, know what to expect facing the same guys day after day, but you want to see what they look like against a different style of offense. If you're the defense, a different style of defense, if you're the offense, etc. You want to get a better feel for them. And maybe you'll learn something about a player that you didn't realize before. That's the joy of this. So I think for Bailey, it's going to be an important practice. I think certainly for all of the young receivers on offense, this is going to be an important practice in terms of separating and saying, okay, you're trying to figure things out between Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, Devon Vele. And by the way, make nothing of that depth chart, that unofficial depth chart that came out on Wednesday. They have to put a depth chart in the weekly press release in advance of the first game. Remember, last year's depth chart, of course, had Bo Nix as the number 3 quarterback, just listed there. They have to put that forth. It's league mandated. Don't read anything into that. Don't read anything into RJ Harvey being running back 5. This is one of those classic examples of focus on what they do, not what they say. What they do, what they're, pardon me, what they're doing is they're having RJ Harvey split first team reps with J.K. Dobbins. And then when J.K. Dobbins gets a veteran rest day, RJ Harvey's getting the bulk of the first team snaps. That's what they're doing. You're seeing Pat Bryant listed down with the 4s, and yet you're seeing Pat Bryant rotate in and catch plenty of passes from Bo Nix. So, yeah, make nothing of that depth chart. You're seeing Shadé Barron listed on the 3rd team, and if you listen to Vance Joseph talking about Shadé Barron, he's talking about making sure he's ready to play in week 1, which tells you that Shadé Barron is going to have some role, at least on a significant sub package in week 1, which is certainly not third team. So there you go. Just, it's funny. I'm glad I didn't have to write that article. I'm glad I was in the middle of standing at baggage claim at San Jose Norman Mineta Airport, waiting for my suitcase to come off the conveyor belt there. So someone else got to write that story. I was busy. So anyway, so Denver football after dark here on a Thursday morning in the Mile High City. I am here in the Pacific time zone. It's still Wednesday night, and I'll probably have this wrapped up while it's still Wednesday night so I can get a good night's sleep before heading on over to the 49ers practice facility just near Levi Stadium. You can't see it in the background. But if I looked out my window there, I can see part of Levi Stadium from my hotel. Very fortunate to have a hotel close to the stadium so I can get back here quickly and get to work and get ready for Orange and Blue today. I chose very carefully. I like to make sure I have a pretty efficient plan work-wise when I'm doing these trips, especially like this. And I'm representing Denver sports and 104.3 The Fan on my own, so I've got to make sure it's very efficient because I've got a lot to do on Thursday. So anyway, glad I found out that you do the YouTube lives. Yep. Hey, Graham, appreciate seeing you, man. Yeah. And believe it or not, I actually wasn't sure I was going to do a YouTube live tonight, but I did promise I would be here on Wednesday night, and I had a project that I was working on this evening. One of my monthly housekeeping things that I do work-wise is add up all the video numbers, all the video traffic numbers, and it's kind of going through various social media platforms. It's kind of a bear to do. So that was what took up much of my evening. So once I got that done, I wanted to come in here and back in my test kitchen and put in some solo broadcast reps here before the end of the night. Sean Mahoney. What would have a bigger impact tomorrow? It was Sean Payton, the coaches tomorrow. A player that has stacked days recently has a bad day against San Francisco, or a player on the bubble that completely shines? Ooh. Well, I would say this. In either case, I think they would want to see what happens Saturday to see if the player that has stacked days struggles on Thursday, they'd want to find out if they bounce back Saturday. And if they bounce back Saturday, then it would be, okay, probably just a shaky day perhaps, and they found their footing on Saturday. And that maybe it was just an aberration. So I think that would be the rationale there. I think, and if it was a player who was struggling in camp that really came alive on Thursday, it would be, okay, show me again Saturday. And if you show me again Saturday, then it's, oh, okay. Yeah, you put something together here. Maybe it's just when the lights go on, when there's another opponent there, there's another team on the field, you got something. I think in either one of those cases, Sean, it would be back it up. For the positive, it would be back it up. For the negative, it would be, okay, let's see how you respond on Saturday. So it would be, if you've got a mountain of evidence one way, and then Thursday is the opposite, it would then be, let's see what happens on Saturday night and see if the form from Thursday continues or it's different. So anyway, I'll be there Saturday at Levi Stadium. First game. Hey, good. First game. Glad you're going to be able to check them out. So looks like you're going to tell a scary story. Are you afraid of the dark? No, I'm not. Maybe that's why I do this. I'm not afraid of the dark. I kind of like it in the dark. Although one of the things I've noticed is that I'm going to have to get some anti-glare glasses so I can wear for this, because I have noticed this actually puts some strain on my eyes. Like sometimes my eyes hurt after I do this, especially if I do one of the long shows. So that's something that is something that I have to consider when I'm doing this. As you take a look at Lavelle Bailey, who is one of those guys that I think has a lot on the line, and one of those players who's had a strong camp. And if it's a rough day for him on Thursday, you'll want to see, okay, how does he respond? Now, the other thing to consider in that, if you see a player that has done well and then struggles on Thursday and then does well on Saturday, is we do know that, Kyle Shanahan, maybe he won't play his starters on Saturday. Kyle Shanahan's maybe one of those coaches that doesn't use his starters all that much in the preseason. Sean Payton is one who's going to make sure he gets his starters out there in the preseason. He's a little more old school in that way than Kyle Shanahan tends to be, although Kyle Shanahan isn't necessarily all Sean McVay, and that I'm just not going to play my starters at all. So we'll see. But yeah, it will be a fascinating day. It'll be a fascinating morning, no doubt. So, background: which undrafted guys do you think still have a shot at making the team? Yeah, this is something I actually was discussing this at lunch today. This may be a year where you may not see an undrafted player on the 53. It's looking pretty tough to crack. What Siri? What about that? I would say right now, if I had to say the guy who has the best chance, it would probably be Corene Reed, the linebacker. Part of it is the lack of depth at linebacker. Part of it is I've seen some flashes from him, especially in how he attacks the run. He is pretty good at diagnosing things quickly. He does seem, at least in practice, he does seem to be kind of a half step ahead of some of the other undrafted inside linebackers in terms of the way he attacks the run. So again, but that's practice. Let's see what happens in the games. Like I always say, year in and year out, that we get to that preseason game and we end up talking about somebody that maybe we weren't talking all that much about before. So that's seems to be the case every preseason. And it's one of the things that always makes me curious. Okay, who are we going to be talking about at 9:30 on Saturday night? Because most years we end up talking about somebody that maybe that was just not quite on our radar. That's the fun part of this. So, but if I had to say right now, a player on an undrafted player who'd make it, I'd say Reed probably has the best chance, but I'm not sure any of them would make the 53 today if you were making a 53. Part of it is the strength of the roster. I thought Johnny Walker Jr., before he went on IR, had a chance. He was a priority guy. I thought it wouldn't have surprised me if the Broncos kept 6 edges on the 53 with him. Now I think they'll keep 5 on the 53 with Q Robinson being the 5th, although we'll see where things stack up with him injury-wise as well. Yes, that was Joe, that was Lavelle Bailey who had the interception there against the Cardinals at the end of the preseason. And the very end of the preseason, 4th quarter of the last game, and he made his statement. So sometimes it happens right there at the end, and that helped him stick. When Sean Payton says like every snap in the preseason matters, I mean, Lavelle Bailey sticking, there's evidence right there. So it's not just lip service from that guy. So do you think we see a lot of trick plays with Rizzy revamping our special teams? Maybe not early. And I'd say also with a new punter, with a rookie punter, I think maybe the trick plays might go into freeze for a little bit in that phase specifically, that maybe you want to just kind of let Jeremy Crawshaw get accustomed and get comfortable and get settled before you start introducing things that are kind of beyond the vanilla and norm of punting. Now, maybe there are some interesting things you can do on returns, and I wonder, especially with the two returners back there, whoever ends up lining next to Marvin Mims Jr. on kickoff returns long term, there probably will be some opportunities to do some different things there. And especially with Rizzy helping craft the modified kickoff rules, the modified dynamic kickoff for this season, that's where I think you'll see some tricks up the sleeve. So I would expect maybe some interesting things coming there on the kickoff return phase of things. Punts, I wouldn't be surprised if at least early on as Crawshaw gets settled, things are pretty much to the norm, and I'd say. So someone says save tricks for the playoffs. Well, what you do is maybe you do a trick in the regular season, but it's not the big trick. Maybe you do sort of a light version of it to show a look, to get everyone thinking about that, but then you save the real ace up your sleeve for the playoffs out of that look. Like maybe you do, the one that's designed maybe to get the first down, but the real thing that you think can actually go the distance, you save that for the playoffs. That's what you do. Kodiak Broncos podcast. I don't know what time everything specifically will happen in the practice. All I know is that the practice will start at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I can't tell you exactly when everything's going to start in the practice because I don't know exactly how the 49ers structure it, because 49ers and Broncos will come together on the schedule and they'll figure things out. So it might be a bit different than we're used to because you're bringing together two teams and trying to shake things out. So I can't answer that, Kodiak. I'm sorry. So Denver football after dark here on a Thursday morning in the Mile High City and still a Wednesday night here in Santa Clara, California. Levi Stadium, about a mile and a half that way. As Cali Bronco says, it was rocking 9 years ago. Yep. Certainly was. A beautiful February afternoon, February night. Warm day for winter. I believe it was 76 degrees at kickoff. It was just perfect. Lovely, lovely day. I mean, I just recall the weather that week being gorgeous. I mean, you could go swimming that week. It was just got a lovely time. And then of course a win at the end. Couldn't have gone better. What a day it was. 20 push-ups. You know what? No one's late because I don't start this at a set time. So nobody's late. Nobody's early. It just happens when it happens because it happens after I've done everything else. So, no worries. Want to see the run game against San Francisco? Yeah, I do too. I want to see what it looks like against a front that's not Zach Allen and Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper and DJ Jones and Malcolm Roach and company. I want to see it against somebody else. I want to see those guys. I want to see the offensive line get settled. I want to see them, I want to see things getting to the edge. I want to see RJ Harvey turning upfield. The one thing that's going to be interesting is, and this is what's always hard at the joint practice, you got two fields. You're going to have Broncos offense, 49ers defense, Broncos defense, 49ers offense. And unfortunately, you can't watch everything. So you're getting out the binoculars and you're kind of going back and forth, back and forth. I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a dizzying experience. So taking it all in, sometimes it can be, as John Elway would say, for like a rookie quarterback, it's going to be drinking from the fire hose. So you're just hoping to take in as much as you can, and just hoping you're seeing all the important stuff. So, but it's gonna be a good one. Gonna be a good one. Maybe you'll see this guy. Maybe you'll see Caleb Lohner make a play. A guy who's probably very much on the bubble, Lohner. Can you sneak him through the practice squad or not? If he goes out there and makes some plays Thursday and Saturday, perhaps not. That's another thing. If you see guys flash and you can't hide them, then who knows? So, yep. Columbus says McGlinchey hasn't been good. You know what? I don't get too much into veterans at this point, especially when you're McGlinchey and you're an 8-year veteran. If you're having rough days, I go by the body of work in the regular season. Cortland Sutton hasn't made a lot of big plays just yet. So is that reason to be concerned? Not really. I'd say let's see what it looks like when it matters. Cortland's an 8-year vet. McGlinchey's an 8-year vet. These are guys who at this point know what they're doing to be ready for week 1. If it's not there by then, that's a concern. Now, do you do the other thing with McGlinchey? Remember, he did miss a little bit of time at the start of training camp, so he also might be battling through something as well. We also know, like, for instance, Devon Vele, Joe Lombardi mentioned he's dealing with something. And of course, Vele did miss time at minicamp back in June. And so that's another thing you may be thinking about as well, is that guys might be, guys aren't 100%, could be affecting them. So that's something to consider as well. So miss the live sometimes because of work. Yep. Well, if you're watching on delay, I don't care. I always say appreciate whether you're watching live, watching on delay, whatever. Y'all remember the O-line was bad first 2 weeks, still finished as one of the best. Not the O-line was bad. Quinn Miners was downright apologetic in the locker room after the Seattle game a couple of days later, talking about that game and his performance. And I know he was struggling with the burden of leadership then, and he's talked about it since then. Sometimes it just isn't there. And it's actually been interesting with the Broncos the last 2 years under Sean Payton. And he often talks about kind of the race to get better, and you're kind of trying to get things right and get ready and do it on the fly in the regular season. And the last 2 years, they have not been close to a finished product there in the first couple weeks. And Payton has even dropped the nugget that he doesn't think they're going to know what the run game is until week 4 and know where it stands. So think about that for a moment. We're talking about this run game. We're talking about the running backs, and he doesn't even think we're going to have a good idea as to where things really stand with it until 4 games into the season. So that's another thing to consider when we talk about disseminating what we see tomorrow, is that we may not even know everything about it 2 weeks into the regular season. So we are trying to put together this jigsaw puzzle, and we don't have all the pieces today, and we're not going to have all the pieces next week, and we're not even going to have all the pieces when they play the Titans. So it doesn't mean we're not going to talk about it. Doesn't mean we're not going to we're not going to analyze it. It just means that we're going to have an incomplete picture. So if you watch the new Bo Nix video, he seems to do everything the right way. I did watch that. I mean, he works his tail off. I would say this. He works his tail off. That work is what a lot of guys are doing. That's those types of sessions on their own. I mean, it's one of the things I admire about the players in this league, the effort that they put in to get themselves ready for this. I mean, it's cool to see Bo kind of peel back the curtain a bit and show you how that work doesn't stop even in the downtime, those 5 or 6 weeks when they leave the facility after minicamp. And then, guys do get away for a bit. Guys do usually go on a bit of a vacation at times, but they're back to work. I know a lot of guys will lift weights when they're on their vacation. Like that is very much a thing to stay in shape. So never really stops. So it was filmed right before training camp. Yeah, I think the dates on it were like, I believe it was like July 10th, like July 8th, 9th, 10th, if I'm not mistaken, because I noted the date and I thought to myself, like a couple of the dates, I was like, where was I then? Oh yeah, I was at the beach. So that was one of the things that went through my mind because I thought about what was going on. And I'm like, where was I? Oh yeah, I was at the beach. So yeah. Russell Wilson vibes. I didn't get that. I didn't feel that. I didn't feel Wilson vibes from that. It felt a little more direct than Russell Wilson. For some reason actually, I know the reason why. I got a text message from somebody up in Madison, Wisconsin, that was asking me about, just sarcastically asking me if I missed the Russell Wilson press conferences, because they just, I think, seen one of Russ's sound bites with the Giants. And I thought to myself, oh, let me see what the first press conference of Russell Wilson was like 2 years earlier at the start of camp. And I happened upon one of his responses where he just named, he dropped 10 or 12 different names because he didn't how he just he'd answer a question and he would name 12 different things, or he'd name, he would talk about position groups and he would name all the position groups on the team. It was just just everything from him sounded like it was a politician, which is why the Nate Tice interview with Pablo Torre is so fascinating, because Nate roomed with him on on road trips at Wisconsin in 2011. If I would recommend finding that and listening to that, because it's pretty hilarious if you want to dredge up the memories of Russell Wilson as a Bronco. It's actually pretty hilarious to listen to Nate Tice talk about his experiences as Russell Wilson's road trip roommate. And he talks at one point about Russ watching one of his own interviews on television. I'm like, when I'm hearing this, I'm like, who does that? I'm sorry. I can't stand watching myself on this. I'll do this show and I might listen to myself just for pointers. I can't watch myself. I couldn't do it. I might listen to myself just to kind of figure out things cadence wise. I can't watch myself. It's a weird thing I have. That's why I can't imagine Russ sitting there and watching his own interview. Like it doesn't register with me. So, yeah, I think it was. Oh gosh, welcome to San Jose. Yep, it's good. By the way, I found a really good Mexican place a couple of trips earlier here, and I went back today called Luna, and they had like this really, and I had the huevos rancheros because it was brunch lunch, and if I have the opportunity to have brunch, I'm gonna take it, and it was tremendous. Nice little spot there, and background. Yes, Russ would list the entire offensive line, like if he was talking about it, and I swear he would go through the backups as well. Like he just list everybody. And there was a question I asked him once, and it was like I asked him once, and then he rattled off a bunch of names, and then after the press conference, I turned to one of the other reporters and I said, at some point, I want to ask him a question about the 2011 Wisconsin Badgers, just to see how many players from that team he could name. Like almost just to just test him to see if he could name like 20 guys off the 2011 Badgers, just to just for my own fun. I was going to ask a question related to that team, but the only reason I didn't is it would have wasted every other reporter's time, and I didn't want to do that. But I did think for a moment about doing that just for my own entertainment value, to see if I could ask a question and get him to name like 20 Badgers from a team from 11 years ago. But it was also at the point where the season was going haywire and the tensions were running high, and you have to know like time and place to do things like that, and it wasn't the time or the place. So anyway. I think Wilson has a problem being himself, and he knows there's the camera on him around. Yeah. I'm curious about who Russ Wilson actually is as a person. Like, authentic. And this is the thing, like, the authentic thing, and you compare that to now, the authenticity of Bo is, I think, what a lot of the vets really dig about him. And I think one of the reasons why Bo has really won over that locker room is because he is who he is himself. I think it has helped Bo that there has been the contrast between somebody that no one was really sure if that was really him, to where Bo, everybody knows that's him because he is authentically himself. And because of that, everybody trusts him. Everybody feels like they know the real Bo and they respect the real Bo. And the thing is, if you're not authentic, you're going to get found out. And if you're not authentic, you're not going to be trusted. I mean, and I would say, like, for me personally, the thing, what I value, because me personally, what I value most in somebody else is authenticity. So even if it's not necessarily what you want to hear, I value authenticity. So I'd rather have that than have the facade. So, I can see why Bo's won them over. I could see it when Jarrett Stidham got the job for the final 2 games in the regular season in the 2023 campaign, how I could see how many guys were like coming up to, just in the open locker room periods that we were in the locker room that week, and how many guys were coming up to Stiddy and, were, talking with him, and the support he got then. So, and Stiddy is one of those guys who's authentically himself and has the respect of everybody in the locker room for that, because they know that he is who he is and that there's no pretense with him. It's why I say that, I mean, Stiddy is a backup for a reason, but he does know the scheme. And if he has to go in there, that team will play just as hard for him as it does for Bo. No doubt about that. There will be no drop off in effort, energy, will, any of that. I'm going to, to paraphrase Dick Vermeil, that team would rally around Stiddy and play good football if he had to go in there. I mean, that would probably change the expectations, obviously, but they would rally around him, just like they rally around Bo. So, anyway. Yep, hit the like button. Yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm going to get that in there here. One last question here before I go and get some sleep before I go watch these joint practice on Monday. Bonito or JFM next? I'd say if they get one done, the next one done, I think they'd like it to be Bonito. The one thing I do talk about, though, it always takes two sides. And if Nick Bonito and his representation wants to bet on himself because a 13 or 14 sack season would at least take him into Max Crosby territory, if not TJ Watt territory, that would preclude something from getting done. Of course, there's also the risk that goes with that. Do you want to get a deal done now, take what's there, which may not be what you could get if you have another big season? Do you want to roll the dice? Because if you roll the dice, you might get injured. And if you roll the dice and you get injured and life goes on without you and Jonah Ellis steps in and has 12 sacks, then, you're probably moving on and getting a contract somewhere else, but doing so after an injury. So that's the thing. It's the bird in the hand, two in the bush thing, as it were. Because the Broncos, if you give Nick Bonito a contract, you're giving Nick Bonito a contract based, on the form to this point. You're not giving him a contract based on, you're not giving a contract that looks like Max Crosby because Nick Bonito has not reached a Max Crosby level at this point. He hasn't earned that. So if he wants a Max Crosby contract, he has to go out and earn that. Right now he has one season at that level. So that's kind of the conundrum that they're in right now. But if you're the Broncos, you try to get it done because they only get the players, the talent only gets more expensive. There's reasons to get it done, but Nick Bonito may have his own reasons for not wanting to get it done, for betting on himself. So that's the thing that floats around with this. So anyway. Appreciate you coming in here on this Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Want to hear nothing but good tweets tomorrow. I want to be sending out nothing but good tweets, good messages. I hope it's good vibes on the practice field for the Broncos. I hope nobody gets hurt on either side. That's actually the big thing that, above all, that you hope for this is nobody gets injured. That you come out from this practice as intact as you were going into it. That is priority number one. And then the rest you can learn from. The rest, even if it's a bad day, you can take as a learning experience. That's kind of the bottom line of this. If you have a rough day, if your effort isn't there, if you don't come with enough vim and vigor, guess what? You've got a joint practice in 7 days against the Arizona Cardinals that you can correct that. You've got a preseason game on Saturday that you can correct that. So bear that in mind too. So anyway, Denver football after dark here for this Wednesday night, Thursday morning in advance of the joint practices as we kind of take stock of where the Broncos are, look at the joint practice. I'm gonna dive in tomorrow night. It will probably be a much longer show Thursday night and Friday morning as we review what we saw on the practice field here in Santa Clara and look ahead to that preseason game against the 49ers. Appreciate you coming in. If you like this, like, comment, share, subscribe. Hey, if you've got Broncos fans who want a little more low-key Broncos talk, you can check this out anytime, even if late night in the day. Tell your friends about this channel. Tell your friends about my practice recaps. And I will be my plan is to do daily recaps after locker room periods and so forth on this YouTube channel, as well as on my other social media channels as well. So there'll be plenty of content here. Knock on whatever surface I can find on this Mace Denver channel going forward. So stay tuned for plenty of that. So appreciate you coming in here late at night or whenever you check this out. I'm grateful for all of you for watching this channel. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you again after the Broncos take on the 49ers, or not really take on the 49ers, practice with the 49ers and get things done in a joint practice that will probably reveal a few things that maybe we don't yet know about the 2025 Denver Broncos. Until next time, take care. Thanks for watching and enjoy your Thursday, everyone.